All right. What's up, gang? I'm Andrew. I am doing this to just basically trade journal my setups for the previous day. However, um, I'm just going to start from a week ago and kind of journal in what I saw. And this is going to be my record of it. So that way I can look back and hopefully one day reuse these and rewatch them and learn from it. So basically, I'm just going to share my screen and walk through what my setups are. Cool. And so, for those of you that may watch this, you're probably not going to get any views. I've been trying to learn ICT, and I know my charts probably look like a mess here. I basically have 3 or 4 different setups that I look for. I look for IFVGs that come and retrace into 15 or 1 hour gaps. I look for SMTs in the first 30 minutes of open, typically tapping into a gap, and a couple other different types of setups, but mostly just looking for a couple of basic setups. I've been trading for 2 years. Actually, I'm coming up to 2.5 years, almost 2.5 years. ICT. However, I've been trading swing trading for a long time with my Robinhood account and just regular stocks. And a couple of years ago, I decided that I would like to do this more often. And so I recently got funded with a bunch of accounts and blew them all. Kind of just went psycho one day and blew up everything I'd worked hard, a couple of months hard to build. And so I'm starting from scratch kind of again. And so I figured I need to really dial in my journaling and look for 1 to maybe 2 setups a day. I'm going to start with one. If I don't see it, I don't trade. But this is basically my trade journal of what I see each day and what I'm looking for. And so the first day we're going to start with this week is the 8th of Monday. I apologize if you hear my newborn baby crying in the background. Close this door so maybe that helps. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm on a 15-minute chart real quick. What I'm going to do is just zoom out here, kind of show what we've been working with the last week. As you can see, we had obviously a run to all-time highs, and then we started retracing. We have some pretty big sell-offs last week. I think it started Wednesday. Kind of, you can see it started tip over. Wednesday Asia session, sold off, recovered a little bit during New York, and then sold off again in Asia, sold off New York. And then it looked like we maybe caught some resistance here Sunday evening. And so I'm going to start my trade analysis basically here, because it does look like we got some support here. We started to build some new highs up into Monday. And so obviously with all-time highs being, relatively close, maybe 1,000 points up. I still think we could be bullish. I think, there's definitely going to be some retracements up even if we continue selling back down. So long story short, let's start. So first and foremost, I'm going to turn on my stuff here. So if we look on the daily chart, where did all my stuff just go? There we go. Daily chart, we had a pretty big gap here that I figured at some point we were going to come back and touch into. And so this is actually the Friday. This is Monday. So I figured there might be some sort of pull back up. And so if we look at the 1 hour here, and I should be doing this on rewind, which I'm going to start here. Let's do replay. Monday. Okay, so we'll just go like here. And then I'm going to do this actually on ES as well. And I'll pop this screen over. Actually, I'm not sure if we can, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so obviously we had this is our daily fair value gap. up above that I thought we might head back up for. We started to, uh, Sunday, what market open, you know, kind of tapped into this 1 hour fair value gap here from Friday afternoon. And then we actually, I believe the term is called BPR. We filled this range back. And so that to me showed that this could have some possible strength returning in the market, flipping this 1 hour fair value gap. And that happened. If we pull this in here, that happens basically a couple hours before open. So when I pull this up on a 15, hey, how this replay sign is stuck here. That's annoying. So as you can see on the 15, when we did burst through and broke through this 1 hour fair value gap and closed above it, it did create this 15-minute fair value gap here as well. So that showed that there's probably an inefficiency that we potentially, may come back and test. And so at Monday market open, I thought, if we're going to continue up, we might come back down and touch into that. So that was my first analysis: is that we flipped this, 1 hour BPR pre-market, and then left this 15-minute gap back in. And as you can see, we had a change of character here. That's another factor as well, that fair value gap, also created a change of character. We broke above these recent highs to push some momentum forward. I knew that our New York PM high was up a little bit higher. And we actually came through and broke through that at right before open as well. And so if we look at one more factor, if we pull out a recent, I think it was all-time high down to where we were, or even, actually I take that back. It was the recent high from Friday before the big sell-off. Our 50% retracement was around this area as well. So there's a couple things going through my mind Monday morning. One, be careful that it could just hit that 50% retracement level and ricochet out. We had a 1 hour fair value gap up here, and then we had that daily gap that I thought we were going to tap into. So when we, closed above this 1 hour fair value gap and filled this, my thought process was, okay, maybe we're going to come back down, touch this, and go up and hit and touch into this or the daily fair value gap, which looks like we were pretty accurate. So in the 5-minute chart, we can see here that broke through New York about 30 minutes before open, and held above it. We did reverse over it, but it was a longer reverse. It took us 25 minutes to flip this 5-minute gap, which usually, from what I've seen, there can be some manipulation pre-market. And so I thought maybe this is kind of the sell-off before we go up. And so I was a little patient waiting. And we did sell off. And so this is actually, I believe, another 15-minute gap here that I was eyeballing. If you can see here. When we opened, we actually came in and touched into it, which kind of threw me off. There's actually 2 15 minutes here. So you can see we immediately sold off, touched into this little one, which I didn't think, there was no IFBG here. There's nothing to look for. This one was tempting though, because it was kind of right where that big breaker structure was, a bigger one over this way. And I was like, maybe this is our area, but we didn't, we did flip this gap right here. But it wasn't super clean. And for some reason, I probably would have gotten stopped out if I took this one. And it didn't close above this recent high either, which to me is a signal that we didn't have a change in state here to keep going further. So long story short, this ended up, coming back in. It touched again and gave another IFEG, which this definitely, I think, faked me out. I think I may have jumped in on this one, but we didn't clear this high. And obviously came back down even lower. And so I thought, maybe this is the area we want to be focused on. The 1 hour BPR plus this 15-minute gap. And it came down, touched it slightly. Obviously we had a very interesting 1 minute IFEG right here. So we came in and touched, and then rocketed out of here. We knew pre-market highs were a good risk to reward. That was something else with this trade is like, where are we trading into? It wasn't really, if we take this one, is that a 2R? No, that's probably, if we're taking it to here, that's, negative R, looks like, maybe 1.2. Even this one here, yeah, I mean, just the reward's not there. But this one had a lot more room to run with. So when we look at it, risk to reward here, even if we targeted these highs, is still a 3, up to the pre-market high. Here's a 4.5. So that's a really solid trade. And so also on ES, so I'll do this while we're here as well. So if we look at ES on the 1 minute, there's a nice SMT here, which was interesting. So you can see NQ tapped into the 15-minute and didn't come back down and break that low, whereas ES is this one. Sorry, ES did. And so it wasn't, you can see that this high stayed above on NQ, which means that, I was looking at taking this trade on NQ because of that. But this really just kind of confirmed the trade. I obviously didn't see this before, but yeah, to me, that kind of confirmed that the trade would have some potential. NQ, being a little more bullish than ES. And then so second piece I was looking for is once this broke back above this lower high, I thought that this would have potential to go up and be it change of character, go up and retest other highs. And so that was trade one. This was a tough one though, because it fake out here, third time's a charm. Yeah, goes to show you that not all 15-minute gaps look good or work. Okay, so that was first one. Let's go back into Tuesday. So Monday, okay. So Tuesday, we see that, let's turn this off. I don't need to trade anything. Tuesday, big sell-off day. Okay. So Tuesday, we can see here, basically first thing in the morning, came through and swept our highs. So if we turn on this guy, we can see that this New York AM high got swept right at open. Turn this guy off. Okay. We'll just jump in here. So we also tapped into the daily fair value gap, which I was, kind of thinking about Monday that we'd come and do. Tuesday, we fly all the way up and we tap into it. Creates an IFEG at the top here. This it looks like a 1-to-1 risk to reward. I'm not sure why I actually did this. This is not the trade I was looking at, but this did sweep, touching the daily fair value gap. This is kind of like a classic accumulation, manipulation, distribution. Um, and so when looking at this, the move I probably would have gone for, I don't think I traded this, but I believe there's a little IFEG right there. On the 1 minute here. So once this closed below, this would have been the trigger to go short with a stop here and at least target, maybe some of these recent lows, which is still a 3R return. If we look at this on the 5 minute, yeah, same. Yeah. So long story short, this is like a perfect case of accumulation for a couple hours, manipulation, juice it up market entry. This is the first 15 minutes. Sweep the highs, obviously, and then just come right back through them. And then that distributed way down. If we look at ES, I don't remember exactly on Tuesday if we had the same thing, but let's pull it up and see. Okay, so this is Tuesday, so we'll just do there. Oh, so even more interesting, New York PM high didn't get swept on Monday by ES. So to me, that probably would have been something I was looking for as well on Tuesday. We didn't have any gaps up here besides the 4-hour fair value gap, which is also probably the daily. If I had to zoom out here and check that, I'm sure there's probably a daily somewhere up here because we had one on NQ that was pretty obvious. So, yeah, this is also going to be, wow, what happened to my charting stuff here? I'm missing some things. This was also a New York AM high. So not only do we have a PM high, but we also have an AM high sitting above that we came for. So we know there's a liquidity above this area. It's going to be, definitely a draw. Asia, London looks like it pulls us all the way up. And then we flip this gap instantly on a, not instantly, but you can see this is a 15-minute flip. So I'd be looking, obviously when this closes below, that to me signals we're probably going lower. But first and foremost, this was a pretty obvious same deal. Accumulation, manipulation, distribution. If we're looking at the 1 minute here, yeah, I mean, that's picture perfect up there. Oops. So we can see here that this flips at the very top. Man, that would have been a juicy one to get because the risk to reward would have been amazing. Yeah, so we target, I mean, a 2R on this is nothing. But, we target some recent lows in here. Maybe let's change a character line. Yeah, it's a juicy trade. So Tuesday, that was definitely the setup. I did also see on NQ, there was a 15-minute tag in off this sell-off. So even if I was late to the party, maybe it wasn't. Maybe I thought there was a 15-minute tag in somewhere in here, but I don't see it right now. Let me try 30. Yeah, no 1 hour. No, there wasn't. So it was just basically an instant sell off of all day. So yeah, that would have been Tuesday's play, right at the open. Um, so Wednesday, let's get Wednesday set up. Okay, I gotta type my notes out for this one because I'm missing them as well. Okay, so Wednesday, um, solid bounce off these lows, some big wicks. Um, Obviously, some pretty strong retracement back up. If I had to guess, this looks pretty similar, like a fib retracement level. Yeah, I mean, if you look at open market, we came up and basically to the 6.18 level between this range. I'm not a specialist in this, but I believe you always start with manipulation, which this was obvious accumulation, manipulation, distribution. So we start the manipulation, go down to the bottom wick, expect a retracement to the 5 point, which we did actually get a first one, and then also some of these zones. So that was the first thing I should have done. And then looking at Wednesday here, so we obviously had some big gaps. So this, I believe, is a 4 hour fair value gap, which I don't like 4 hours very much, but we'll use it for this example. There's some 15s as well. There's another 15. So basically rally up, and then Asia London is here. You can see that we had a 15-minute gap as well. Coming up, broke below some of these support levels. So this is bearish to me here, right? Lower high, lower high, lower high. This is a change of character. So we obviously break this lower high about an hour and a half, maybe hour and 15 minutes, whatever, hour before market opens, which is interesting. We know we have London and Asia high above us to target. There's obviously some more liquidity way up there, but we're pretty far off that. We do have a big gap up here that we could come tap into and rocket out of. So at this point, I am starting to think bullish because of this change of character with strength. And once again, 15-minute, pre-market creates a 15-minute gap. And it looks like at open here, we know that Asia and London draws are up there. Recent change of character is basically right where, you can see this on our 1 minute, is where we close above. Recent low does follow short, but then creates another 15-minute gap in its wake when it starts to create that new leg up, which to me I find interesting. So at open, let's also bring ES with us here. So ES had the same 15-minute gap, change of character, same exact thing. And the 5-minute looked quite similar, and 1 minute was actually pretty similar to this as well. So creates the we don't come in sweep London high. We get pretty close. Higher low. This comes and taps back. Sorry, that's a higher high than our recent guy. This comes and taps back into 15-minute. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a very, very small IFEG right here, which is super interesting. I don't think I took this, but in fact, I didn't take this. I know I remember watching this one because I was too slow. Um, this was a quick one. Yeah. Would have been a pretty trade though, because if you targeted Asia, it's 320 points. Even if you targeted London, still looking at 166, stop of 75, which is steep. But look at the strength on this 1 minute candle. I mean, that's crazy. And this would have intimidated me. I probably would have moved my stop to break even at this point, which is okay because he didn't come and touch it, and I'm tired. But yeah, this was the setup for the morning for sure. On ES, we'll pull this one up so you can see it. Actually, really similar. Yeah, created a 15-minute, broke above these lower highs. Coming lower, lower, high, low, breaks above it and creates that 15-minute gap. Kind of stalls out here, comes back in, touches it, and then a lot of strength again. So this one, for ES, you target the recent highs, you're at 1.7, but you target Asia, and you're sitting pretty. So that was the definitely the obvious one. Missed out on it, but yeah, that was a pretty good setup. There was another setup this day, but I don't remember what it was. And you know what? It was touching into this gap up here. This is another IFUG. I remember watching this because it swept. We obviously crossed Asia here, and then had blasted through it and had a big rejection back under. So I was like, oh, this might be the IFUG here, but we actually didn't close it below this one. You can see this actually stayed above this line right here, this wick, which made me thought, maybe we're not done yet. And it did come up, rally a little bit higher, and then sweep through. And this would have been probably the one to take. Yeah, I mean, you could have taken this a couple different areas for a target, but even, basic stuff, you take a 2 RR here is right about there. Okay, so let's go to Thursday. Cool. Okay, so let's go replay, start new. Let's go back to Thursday here. But okay. So starting on the 1 hour here. Okay. So Wednesday evening, obviously, come and fill this gap. IFUG up on the 1 hour. That's after we sell off too, which is interesting because we didn't actually sweep the lows down here. I've been learning more about rejection blocks, and that's a perfect example of one on the 5-minute chart. Came down, tapped into it, and rallied up. We'll do some more talk about that in the future when I learn a little bit more about it. Okay, so this one, solid Asia session, ripping back up. We are still, in this, kind of looks like a downtrend to me, lower high, lower low, lower high. Might be a change here because that didn't break that, but we did get a closure of the candle below this one. So that's lower low, lower high, over low, and then boom, we break through this, which to me is some sort of change of character here. So, something to keep our eyes on. So we're looking at Thursday. We have London high. Let's just turn this on so we can double check these. Yeah, so Asia got blasted through. In between sessions, London coming into open was still available. And we also had some other AM highs from previous days that could be targets as well. Okay, and so let's turn this guy off. Created a nice 15-minute gap. Looks like right before midnight. And continued to rally higher. Created a down 15-minute gap. FVG an hour before. London low was here. London high was here. We had looks like a 1 hour gap below New York low. We haven't gotten to that yet. So this was a pretty confusing one for me because what I was looking for is, obviously we had a 15-minute gap below. We had London low. There's a lot of moving pieces on Thursday. Wasn't the cleanest. Just site for me to see what was going on. But I do remember this setup, and this was something I'm trying to learn to do more of. But basically, my goal really is to trade the first 2 hours of open. 6:30, 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock, and call it a day. And so, something I've seen more often now that I've learned a little more about it is SMTs after open, where you have one index close higher than the other, shows some sort of bullish or bearish structure in one of the indexes, ES or NQ. And so when we opened here, we knew there was a 15-minute gap above us. We knew there was a 15-minute gap below us that we had already tapped into. And so when we came down, we double tapped into this 15-minute again. We did have an SMT. So you can see here, I'm on the 1 minute, that's fine. Here we go. So you can see that we had a previous IFEG out of this 15-minute gap. We did sweep London low here. We came back down and tapped into this 15-minute again. And pretty aggressively drove out of it with an IFVG. We knew that there was equal highs up here and London high that we could target. And so when I looked on this, I could see that, obviously there's a little bit of a, close above this wick here, which this is, I like these long wicks because it seems like they're strong rejection points and shows that there's an imbalance. And so one of those lines up with a fair value gap, it seems to show a lot more support and quicker bounces out of certain gaps. And so on ES, we can see here that basically we put them side by side. We can see that this one that swept London low was lower. No, sorry, same scenario here. However, the one that opened after we opened, you can see on the ES side, we actually swept it, whereas NQ side we stayed above it. So that to me, based off of some things I've read and heard, basically means that we should be more bullish on the NQ side because it's the one that stayed above this low. And so I took the took this trade on NQ. Stop was huge, right? So this is a 94-point stop, size down, but we had a pretty big target up to London high, 190 points. And so, yeah, I mean, once you obviously, you see a change of character above this recent high, that kind of confirms the deal that we could go higher. The concern that originally I had was this was a 15-minute gap above us. And so when we did IFEG right back out of it, I was thinking, oh, great. Move, stop to break even. And this candle kind of blew me away. This is like 100-point, more than 100-point rebound after that, which just showed, holy cow, this is strong. So that basically brought us straight to London high. And that was the setup for Thursday. The SMT was the giveaway here. Lots of strength out of this 1 hour gap, 15-minute gap, whatever it is. Okay, and then Friday is the last day. So Friday is today. So let's go through Friday. Okay, so let's go 1 hour. Let's just do replay, start new. Bear with me here for a minute. I don't even need a replay. What am I doing? We're in Friday. 9:15. I'm exhausted. Okay. So let's go 1 hour for ES as well. Okay. So looking on the 1 hour, what's interesting here to me is lower low, and then a lower low, right? So this closed obviously below. Same with it on ES, same structure. However, we did get that strong bounce out of the 1 hour on ES. NQ didn't. NQ didn't touch into this. And so that's just interesting to me. We did tap out of the 15. Oh gosh, that's why. I'm on replay, idiot. Okay. So Thursday we did touch into it. On ES, Friday we did not, because it didn't happen today. All right. So Thursday we had obviously nice run up, created this imbalance here in the market. So that was on my radar for Friday. Near PM low is down here. We had our daily fair value gap up here, which we still haven't touched into. Actually, we did touch into it once. Take that back. But we know that's typically, they want to go up and fill these gaps because there's some orders up there, some liquidity. For ES, I think I have a 4 hour fair value gap there, but yeah. So Thursday's big run up, obviously closed above some recent highs, so could be start seeing a move back up. So this level here was kind of a thought that we'd come up to and at least test it. A break above this, close above this, is a change of character on the 1 hour, which would be interesting because then I think we'd start to aim for all-time highs again. But yeah, tapping into this and ricocheting down could also be something that we see. And so overnight, not a lot going on. We did sell off 1 hour, it's like 2 hours before open. Did create an imbalance right here. Same with ES didn't, but it was pretty close. Obviously a big sell-off before. And so let's go down to the lower time frame. Okay. Turn on our kill zones real quick. Man, these did not map out at all. Okay. So we have those two. Asia got taken out before. London low was available. London high was already taken out. So we knew that London low was a possibility for coming to sweep. And so this was the action of the day. Okay. So coming into the 5-minute, we see we have equal highs up top before pre-market. So that could be a draw for us. On ES, pretty similar story. On the 5-minute here, you can see that these highs are relatively close to each other as well. So we think that could be our draw for liquidity. Okay. And then one more thing real quick. I thought we did have, yeah, I'm just going to put that there. So this is a 1 hour gap before we opened. And that wasn't one either. I thought that was one back there. Oh, there is one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this was a little 1 hour gap as well. I don't know why those aren't marked. It's not good. Okay. So okay. So pre-market, I guess that wasn't a gap either before that one. Holy smokes. No, I guess not. This one was a little bit there. Okay, so we just had a couple 15-minute gaps then. So like this is a sneaky 15-minute here. That's technically a fill, so we won't do that one. But first presented 15-minute. And then this is actually a 15 too. Coloring in my charts. Okay. So let's get back to business. Okay. So pre-market, relatively equal highs. We come down before open. Actually flip this 15-minute gap. There's a little IFVG in here. That actually could have been your trade right there for the morning. So if that's your, right, because we know that this is our draw, but worst case scenario, you take a small position here. You could have just traded up until these, which is 1.6, 81 points. That's not bad. Okay. So, however, we do know that nothing was swept. So if we were patient, it came down into London low here. Sorry. Okay, and then ES, same story. London low is available right here. We did have some other draws, but once it kind of came through, it did switch around. This trade was a longer trade. It wasn't as obvious right out the gate because this, you have a IFVG here, but there's nothing really IFPG related except for like this. I think would be what am I doing? Let's just do green. That would have been it, but this is a huge risk to reward here. I mean, you're looking at 100 something points, right? Yeah, almost 200 points to get a 1-to-1. I mean, it would work, but that's crazy stuff. We know our draws are the equal highs up here, but that's just not a good risk to reward trade. If you did look at it, I think on the, yeah, I mean, Still nothing down below here that is worth it on the 2 minute. The 3 minute, I mean, it's better, but your entry is still so high. On the 5 minute, it's just not present. So the key here was actually being patient because it didn't really give us much of a setup to enter here. And so what it did do is it came in, it flipped this to show as bullish, this 1 hour gap. This has already been flipped to be actually bearish when it came through. So obviously, came up. We created a 15-minute gap here, which, over highs. There were a change of character here, 15-minute gap, which caught my attention. Came up. We still didn't touch our equal highs, though. So when we came back down and came into this 15-minute gap, on ES as well. Let's see. Kind of the same story. No real setup here. No FEG. We did flip this 5-minute. Did get a change of character here and came back down into this 15-minute that we had created. And that is where the IFPG was for, I think, both of these. That made sense. So this one's still not great. 20 points to equal highs is, so that's exactly 2R basically. For me, it made more sense on NQ because the IFEG was lower. So taking it, I already have that set up. So let's delete this. So you can see this, taking this one made more sense because slightly below a 15-minute gap, I'm fine with that. That still means we got some could have some orders and liquidity left in here. Stayed above some of our lows down here. It did have a nice V shape, and we still knew those equal highs were up here. So for this trade, I mean, that's even if we took it to, there's no reason to not take it all the way up there because look at it. Once you got in this trade, this thing went straight up. And you got to change a character here too, so that definitely signifies that equal highs were in play. So, those were the trades of the week. Once again, the goal of doing this is just to journal for myself. If this brings any value to you, feel free to follow along or comment things. I suck at this, to be honest. I just want to get better, and this is how I'm going to do it. So, thanks for tuning in.